Past 8 o'clock, it's Thursday morning, the 18th day of August, 2022. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin. Thanks for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM, of course, over the air here in San Juan County, New Mexico. In Durango, Colorado, you can tune us in at 103.3 FM, and if you're anywhere else on the planet, you can just stream our signal from our website, ksje.com, or ask your smart speaker to play KSJE. And guess what? It does it. Welcome also to our viewers who are joining us. This visual radio program is streaming out live this morning to the KSJE Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our Twitter account. So we're glad that you are with us as well, everybody, because coming up in the next few moments, we're going to be talking about the San Juan County Communications Authority with their new director. Maybe a familiar face and name for those of you that pay attention to KSJE from time to time. So we'll tell you more about that coming up in the next few moments right here on KSJE. Then later on this hour, we'll talk about a special fundraiser that's coming up on September 11th, the third annual Hug and Bob Poker Run that is taking place throughout San Juan County. Join us for details about that later on this hour at 8:50 a.m. on KSJE. Mick Hess will be here next hour, of course, Roving with the Arts, our classical music program. Mick is going to be playing some selections from Tchaikovsky today coming up, and that'll take us to 9:30, and that brings us Native Art Voices of the Four Corners. Vinaya Yazi will be here with that relatively new program. It's on once a month, so we invite you to tune in. Today, Vinaya is speaking with Navajo weaver Areta Begay. That's coming up today at 9:30 on KSJE, and of course, you can check that out. Don't forget about our Instagram page in addition to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and also don't forget about our podcast. If there's a program that you may have missed, you can always check it out and subscribe for free to KSJE Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, places like iTunes and Spotify and iHeart and Google Podcasts, Pandora. The list goes on and on, so check us out and subscribe and maybe discover a new program that you may have missed. Outside our studios here at San Juan College, it is 67 degrees under partly cloudy skies at the moment. Humidity is up there at 70%. We're expecting a bit of a drier day today, just a 20% chance of a shower in the forecast. Partly sunny with a high of 87 in Farmington today, 66 overnight, and then a bigger chance of rain beginning on Friday, but cooler weather with a high of 74 tomorrow, 63 Friday night, 78 with a chance of showers on Saturday, 81 on Sunday, 83 on Monday. You can see mid-80s Tuesday, Wednesday, and still that chance of a shower right around 40% or so. The best chance for rain looks to be on Saturday with that 80% chance of showers. Well, let me introduce my guest. She just couldn't stay away from KSJE. The director of the San Juan County Communications Authority, Nicole Brown, is here in the studios. Welcome back.
Hi.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me. I missed you.
You did. We missed you too.
Yeah.
So for folks who don't know what we're talking about, Nicole, of course, was the former Public Information Officer for the Farmington Police Department and appeared regularly on the Cop Shop program.
Yes.
So
Chief Hebby and I were co-hosts on the Cop Shop, and it was super fun. We were regulars here at KSJE, and
we appreciate the support and the regular program, and hopefully, you got some good feedback and was able to get the word out to the public through that show. And so
it's a great show, and I loved being PIO, but I'm really excited about my new role with San Juan County Communications Authority, which is, for most people, they just know us as dispatch.
Right, exactly, and that's why you're here today in this new capacity.
Yes,
and so congratulations as the director, and I want to talk a little bit about the job of a dispatcher, and you have some job openings. We want to talk about that as well, but kind of give us an idea. Our dispatch center seems somewhat unique in that it's kind of a consolidated dispatch center. You are dispatching for a lot of entities. I know in some communities they have their own, the police have their own dispatchers, and maybe the sheriffs have their own dispatchers and things like that. But here, it's all kind of one center.
Yeah. So there are a few consolidated centers throughout the country, and we are fortunate enough to have one of them. Before we consolidated in 1994, we were all broken up. So Farmington Fire had their own, Farmington Police, Aztec Police, everybody, all of the entities had their own dispatchers and their own dispatch agency. And so that got confusing sometimes because we are a very connected community, things we'll start maybe in the county and then go into one of the cities. And so those dispatchers were having to call the other center and,
literally call, right?
Yeah, like dial the 10-digit number and call them up and be like, hey, this is coming your way.
Yeah.
And exchange all the information. And so there was just kind of a lag time in the information, a little bit of a delay. So I believe Danny Carpenter was the person who said, I think we need to consolidate. I think that, and then that way we're only buying one set of technology,
Right.
And it benefits everyone. So in 1994, in April of 94, we went live as a consolidated center, and it has really been beneficial for our community.
Right.
And it's so beautiful now. If something is coming from the county into one of the cities, we can just look at our partner and be like, hey, will you look at that? That's headed your way.
Yeah, there you go.
And they can we're all in the same system. We're sitting right there together. We know what's going on. And it makes everything so streamlined. And then it's just one number that our community, either 911 or the non-emergency number. Those are the only two numbers our community needs to know, and no matter what, they're going to get a hold of the right people, and
Right.
they can filter it to the right agencies and handle all of that. So.
Which is cool. And I would think for the smaller departments, it's got to be really beneficial to have all this technology and professionalism at their fingertips to be able to say, because you all have kind of the same training now for everybody and all of this. And so if I'm a small department like maybe Aztec PD or one of the smaller fire departments or what have you, they get the benefits of having that consolidated dispatch training and everything else, economies of scale. It works out well for them.
Yeah, and the cost sharing aspect of it too. Farmington and the sheriff's office and then Farmington Fire and San Juan County Fire are our biggest agencies.
Sure.
And so they will, we cost share all of that with Aztec and Bloomfield. And so their portion of it isn't as big, but they still get the benefit of really great high-end technology, and then we cross-train all of our dispatchers. So all of our dispatchers can work every channel. So the level of professionalism is always consistent, and they're always getting the same service. It doesn't matter, if their channel maybe doesn't have as much traffic because they just don't have, the population isn't as high, so there's not as much going on in their areas, but they're still going to get that professional dispatcher on the other end.
Right. And again, as you mentioned, as a crime or an incident goes from one jurisdiction to another, that dispatcher can kind of follow that or hand the call off to another one who's maybe been monitoring, or maybe they've got a screen where all the information suddenly just pops up on their screen and they can see exactly what maybe the original dispatcher was dealing with.
Yeah. And the interoperability of our radios. So Charles Rash with the Office of Emergency Management, he handles all of the radios for San Juan County with the help of Ben McGahey covering Farmington. And both of them, it's amazing. The
Right.
interoperability of our radios and the system that they have set up for us and they maintain for us. And so it is really great. If something's happening and it's like you said, spilling over to other jurisdictions, they can hop on different channels. So, the Bloomfield PD officers can get on the sheriff's office channel if something's happening right there and the sheriff's office is responding, or vice versa. And it just makes things go so much smoother, and we all speak the same language. We're all
That's important. That's
yes,
important.
Yeah.
Right.
I
remember the days of 10 codes and things like that, and that was a little different because some departments had different 10 codes.
They do, and so it's nice that we all have the same 10 code, and we're all communicating, and like I said, it streamlines everything and makes it super easy.
True. And we've been talking about how dispatchers interact with the emergency responders, but really, a lot of times, too, the dispatchers is the first person a person in distress or having an emergency talks to and communicates with. And so that's another big important part of the job, is that those dispatchers are really that hopefully calming voice on the other end of the line when people are maybe experiencing their worst or an emergency or what have you. And so they're trained in all that, too.
Yes. So, we look for people who are naturally calm, but we'll also give them a lot of tools and train them on how to be that calm voice. But it's the most rewarding job I've ever done, and I've loved every job that I've done. And it's wild because people are inviting you into their worst moments. If they're having an emergency where they feel like they need to dial 911, they have reached the end of their rope. They don't know what else to do, and they are reaching out for help. And they are, when you answer that phone, they have given you an open invitation into this chaotic moment in their life. And what I love so much about the job is that you can have an immediate impact on that situation and help them immediately.
Before the police get there, before the fire gets there, before the ambulance gets there, it's you. You're there, the dispatcher.
The dispatcher. And they are giving that person tools to deal with the situation they're in, and they are helping kind of calm the situation before anyone ever arrives. And so they often call dispatchers the first responder, because we are touching that scene through the phone before anyone ever arrives. And that is our goal, is to help mitigate things until help can get there. So all of our dispatchers are trained with a medical protocol and a fire protocol. So we have instructions, to help people give CPR, deliver babies, control bleeding, all of the things that you can possibly think of in the medical field. We can help give callers instructions on how to do that until someone else with a higher training arrives.
Right. And I guess that's kind of why they ask the questions they ask at the beginning of the call, to try to focus what other types of advice then to impart onto the caller, right? To find out what is the emergency, what's going on, and then from whatever the caller says, they can, I think, call up a screen or look for a page in the notebook as to then what the next steps might need to be.
Yeah. So our medical protocol has a system that we work in, and it is. So always, the question we always start with is, it's not like the TV show where they say, 911, what is your emergency? We want to know where your emergency is first before we know what it is.
Location.
Location is the most important thing, because if we don't know where you are, then we don't know where to send help.
Right.
So,
and sometimes that comes in through the call, does it not? With some cell phones and things like that, I know you have some technology that can help you really pinpoint, even if a caller can't speak, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they can.
Yeah, and all of that technology is getting so much better.
Right.
So it's really improving. We have a lot of tools at our disposal to help us find you if you don't know where you are or you can't talk to us. We can text with you. If you don't have Smart 911, you should
talk
get
about
a Smart
that.
911 profile.
Right.
Go to smart911.com. It's free. We pay for it at Dispatch. We pay for that, so our community has that available.
So just real quick, that allows you to put in extra info with your link to your number, I guess, right? To tell about maybe your family, or if you've got a child with medical needs or special needs or what have you. That's where you can then do that, and then that would show up on the screen when you're calling in case that's relevant to the call.
Yes. So Smart 911, you can pack that profile. It's your profile. So you pack it with as much information as you want. So medical information, hiding places that kids go when they're scared, your pet information. You can post pictures in your profile of your vehicles, or a picture of the house if it's hard to find. As much information as you want 911 to know. And it only is available to us when you dial 911. So it's not something that we can just surf through and look, and we would never do that anyway. But it's only available to us when you call 911, and it's only available to us for a short period of time. So we can gather that information, pass it on to the responders. But through Smart 911, we can text with you. So if you're someone who is nonverbal, that's a great profile to have, because we can have a conversation with you through that profile.
Right.
And then, of course, we have other technology options that are available. And then the cell phone carriers are getting much better at getting better data to 911, so we can better locate you. So if you don't know where you are...
Right. Going back to that original question. About the first question you ask is, where are you calling from?
Where you're calling
where's
from.
the emergency?
It's really, really important, because as the dispatcher, so they ask you where you are, and then they'll ask you, okay, tell me exactly what happened. And that's when you can start really giving all of that information. And we'll ask your name and your phone number in case we get disconnected. We need to call you back. But then we really start getting into very specific questions. And depending on your answers to those questions, our protocol will kind of tell us what we need to ask next and what instructions you may need. But then it also codes the call so that when we send it out for fire and EMS, they know whether or not they need to respond lights and sirens, or if like one of them needs to respond lights and sirens and the other can respond just normal, or if they just kind of can normal traffic get to you, depending on, you know, so we kind of prioritize the symptoms and what you're going through.
Sure. And is it possible that you can be dispatching some of those very first responders while the initial dispatcher is still on the phone with the original caller? That
almost always that's happening. So as soon as we get that first little bit of information, the dispatcher is sending it out to paramedics and firefighters. So they are getting in the truck and they're rolling while we're still talking to you. So there's several
people. So the caller may think that you haven't dispatched anybody yet because you're still talking to me, but really in the background you have.
Yeah, it happens a lot. Callers are like, would you stop asking me all these questions and just send somebody?
Right.
And we have to explain to them, my partner is already sending the help.
Yeah.
And that my questions aren't slowing anything down. And that usually takes care of, they're like,
sure.
Oh, okay.
Right.
There's more than one person sitting in the room.
Right. And I suppose depending on the call, I think the dispatcher likes to stay on the line with the person to just kind of keep them engaged and maybe keep them talking or find out if the situation is getting worse or getting better or what have you. Is that part of it too?
Oftentimes we need to stay on the line with people and keep responders updated of what's happening. And sometimes it's just that we're monitoring, if it's a medical call, we're just monitoring the patient until someone can get there with them because they're in a precarious situation and we don't know.
Right. You don't want to lose that connection with them, right?
We want to stay on the line with them. And then sometimes we're giving instructions. We're giving CPR instructions the whole time that they're responding and we're helping the caller handle the situation.
Right. It's a big job.
It is a big job. There is nothing better, though. I know I am biased because, of course, I love it, but...
well, I think people maybe don't realize that you worked at dispatch before you went to the police department, and then now you're back as the director, and so you have a lot of experience doing what we're talking about. You actually have done what we're talking about, actually.
Yeah, I started in 2007 at dispatch as just a little baby dispatcher, and worked my way up. I was a training officer and then assistant supervisor, and then before I left, I was a supervisor. I've been a supervisor for several years, and yeah, it's the most rewarding job. And I spent my time with FPD, and I learned so much, and I'm so grateful for my time there. But now I get to come back to dispatch as the director, and it's been really great. I'm 4 weeks in. I'm at the end of my 4th week.
Well, there you go. I guess they're going to keep you.
I made it through one board meeting, and the board didn't fire me, so I feel really good about it.
Good for you. Good for you. And so the other part of the reason that you're here this morning is that there are openings with the dispatch center and the communications center, and so we want to talk a little bit about these openings and what they entail. We talked a little bit about the job, and it's such a big responsibility, but as you said, it's very rewarding. And I would think for folks maybe who think about maybe being a firefighter or a police officer, but maybe they're a little, I don't know if I need to have people shooting guns at me or whatever.
Yeah.
This could be the next best thing to being out there on the scene, is doing the same type of work as a dispatcher.
Yes. I often say if you have a need to serve your community, or that's what you feel like is your calling, but you necessarily don't want to, touch things at the medical calls or or have people shooting at you and you want some adrenaline. Or
fighting with you or running after you or you running after them or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, if you don't want that much of an adrenaline rush, if you would like to maybe stay in a climate controlled room and things be cool, come to dispatch.
There you go.
We're definitely part of that first responder team, and our responders in this area are so great about including us. It doesn't always happen for dispatchers in other areas, but our group is really great, and they understand our role in what they do, and we understand our role as well. And so it is a great, great job if you have that calling to serve your community, but you don't necessarily want to be hands-on. So it's wonderful. But we are hiring. We have several positions open. We just closed a hiring cycle on August 14th, but we're opening another one on August 28th.
Okay.
So we will put that information out. We're going to be pushing it really heavy and we need you to be able to type 40 words per minute with, I guess it's 40 words, adjusted words per minute. Sorry. Our new typing test system.
Okay.
It used to be 40 words per minute with 98% accuracy, but now the system just adjusts the words for you. So we need 40 adjusted words per minute.
Okay.
Because information is coming so quickly, and you have to be able to keep up. You have to be able to input the information into the computer system as quickly as it's coming at you. So that's our minimum. We need you to type faster than that, but we'll help you. We'll teach you.
Right.
If you're at 40, we can get you to where you need to be.
Okay.
And then it is a super fast-paced environment sometimes. Well, actually, a lot of the time.
Sure.
Occasionally.
Well, I imagine it's either like feast or famine, right? You're sitting around maybe, and the phones are kind of eerily quiet, and then all of a sudden it lights up.
Yes.
Because maybe there's flash floods, or we've seen a bunch of those this time of year, or an incident or whatever. And of course, if there's an accident, maybe there's a lot of well-meaning people who are calling in, which is great. But you get a lot of calls, and so that's important too. And all of a sudden, it becomes super fast-paced.
Yes. And it's what we need is somebody who can switch those gears really quickly, who can gear up to we are live and everything is happening very quickly, and you can handle all of the exchanging information. I like to say that dispatchers are conduits of information. We are taking information and then we are sending it to where it needs to go, and constantly just running that traffic of information and making sure that it's accurate and that the message was received properly and understood. And so you have to be able to, everything can be real chill, and then all of a sudden it's not, and you need to be able to switch that gear really quickly and handle that information.
Right. And that was where the multitasking comes in, I suppose, too. The third bullet on the screen, right?
We do a lot all at once. So,
well, it sounds like you're speaking and you're typing while you're maybe signaling your partner, all these different things simultaneously.
Yes. And you have to be able to kind of listen to three things at once, because you're listening to your caller, you're also kind of keeping an ear open for the radio if the radio talks to you, and you're listening to the room around you. So you are listening to a lot of things, and you're processing and you're prioritizing in your head, and then you're typing, and you have to, if the radio talks to you, then you have to pull up that thing and handle that thing, and while you start handling your caller, and be able to know what's going on in the room around you, so that you're aware if what you're handling on your radio or your phone is affecting the room as well. So it is a lot of multitasking and really being aware of a lot of things at once.
Right. But as you've said, you don't just get thrown into it. Like day one, they don't just set you behind the phone and say, okay, here's a headset, here you go, good luck. There's training, and there's a lot of training, I think, to get you to that level of knowing what's going on and what's expected of you. Yeah.
The level I'm describing is almost expert.
Yeah, right.
So we understand that everyone, when they start, and it's hard to really explain everything that dispatch does. And so I often say that nobody really knows what happens in that building except for the people that work there. So when you come in, we understand that you don't really know what we're doing, but everyone can talk on the phone. So that's where we start. So we'll start with we'll kind of spend some classroom time talking to you about how to interrogate a caller, and we'll start teaching you the computer system, and then we'll take you out onto the dispatch floor, and we'll have you talking to a caller while your trainer will type and manipulate the system. And then eventually we'll get to the point where you'll be manipulating the system while your trainer interrogates the caller so you can learn the system better. Mm-hmm. And then we start putting the pieces together.
Right.
So we baby step you into all of it, and as you learn more, you start adding more skills and you start feeling more confident, then you start listening to more and doing more. So the first phase of everything that we do is the call taking aspect of it. And once you've been signed off on that, you've worked with trainers, and we feel like you're ready to be on your own, we let you call take on your own for just a little while. And then we'll bring you back into classroom, we'll teach you about the radio aspect of things, and then you go out and you start tackling the radio channels. So
right. Now, how long is that usually? Is it a couple of weeks?
Oh, no.
Depending on the person, or what would you say?
It takes months.
Months?
So 8 to 10 months, depending on the person. We're not going to hold you back if you're picking things up and
Okay.
we can tell that you are really handling things well. We're not going to hold you back. But we do have a minimum amount of hours that we want you to spend on each skill. So then we'll move you on through to the next one. But if it's something that you're struggling with, but we're seeing improvement, we'll really pour into you and really help you figure out that skill. And
That's a big investment in a new employee.
it is a big investment, and we invest in our people from beginning till retirement because this job is a job that you always have to be learning in. So we're constantly sending our employees to, conferences, and we're doing ongoing trainings because you always have to be learning. The technology is always evolving.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's somewhat unique to our communications authority because there's a commitment to training your people and improving on the technology. And then folks may say, well, what about funding? How can we afford all this? And I know the voters have, I think, supported
Yes.
the communications authority, again, with a dedicated revenue source
Yes.
to help, keep the facility solvent and be able to reinvest in your employees and your training and your technology. As we're talking about, as cell phone companies figure out how to pinpoint locations, you need technology to interpret that and show that to your screens. And so I think that's been a great benefit from the Consolidated Dispatch Center from its early beginnings, that we've really tried to stay on top of this and ahead of some of the trends in technology to make it available in kind of a somewhat rural place that we live.
Yeah. We, our community voted in a tax that we split with EMS and mental health. So it's I think a 1/16
Right.
tax.
A little increase in the gross receipts in the
was just
county,
a small,
but it adds
increase.
up to a lot of money, and that was the point.
Yes, it does. And it benefits very worthwhile things in our community. So, putting that money towards, emergency medical services and mental health services, and then your emergency services
Right.
of dispatch. So it helps us a lot. That funds, it almost completely funds the center. And then there's stuff that we, funding that we get through the state towards our training. So that keeps us up to date and really pushing to being that, on the cutting edge.
Right. But I think it's important for anyone considering taking this job or applying for this job that they're not just going to get thrown into it, that you are going to be there. The resources are there to help them learn all these different aspects, because maybe they're thinking this morning, well, I don't know anything about these things. Maybe I can type 40 words a minute and, get in there. But there's a lot more behind it and a lot more support behind it to help them get to the level that they need to be successful and really take pride in their job.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll support you, and it takes time, and it will feel like you are climbing Mount Everest. Training is tough because you are learning so many new skills, and it is very humbling. You think you're mastering something, and then something happens, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. So it's very hard, and the job is not for everyone. And we've had people that really want to do the job, and they get hired on with us, and we're really excited about them, and they get a little bit further into it and they're like, oh, I don't think this is for me, or they just can't pick up the skills.
Right.
And so and it's nothing against them, it's just a really difficult job to do,
Right.
and it's not for everyone.
Sure. Well, and again, there are times when it can be, you can get through it, and then there may be those really heavy times when there's a big emergency and the phones are just going off the hook, and that can seem overwhelming to people, I would think. And, you just have to be able to process that and work as a team to
Yes.
get through all those calls. And I'm sure that's what happens in some of those, once we have some of those really major incidents that we're grateful doesn't happen very often. But when they do, you got to be prepared for them.
Yeah, and it's when something happens, I always love to watch the dispatchers, because it is a well-oiled machine. They are handling things so quickly and helping each other, and just making sure that the whole team is successful in handling this situation.
And stepping in maybe where they need to step in if somebody's
picking up the slack.
Yeah.
I always remember a great colleague of mine who has since left the center, but we've each had a trainee and on our shift, and her trainee had a vehicle pursuit that was a long extended vehicle pursuit, and the person had rammed an officer and it was very dangerous situation. And at the time, technology, this was a little further back, so there wasn't as great technology. So my trainee and I were on a totally separate channel, and nothing was happening on our channel. So I told him, let's break out maps. And so we started breaking out big maps and trying to figure out where this car was going and what roads it might take. And so then we were able to say, okay, look, this, and give the dispatcher that information. So then the dispatcher on our end, when they were talking to their units, sounded really confident and had the knowledge and everything, but it took us doing that for them because they didn't have the time to bust out those maps because they were handling all of the traffic.
Right, sure.
So yeah, we really like to collaborate as a team and make sure that as a group we successfully handle that situation.
There you go. Well, we just have just a minute left this
Okay.
morning, Nicole. So again, I wanted to share too about the pay because it's a pretty good gig.
It
right?
is, yeah. We start out dispatchers at $22.59 an hour, and then we're also hiring call takers, and call takers start at $20.92 an hour. And call takers are super important. They're worth their weight in gold. They only take calls, 911 and non-emergency phone calls. The dispatchers they handle the radio and they take phone calls.
I
so
see.
there's an additional skills. They get a little bit more pay. But
Would you say that might be a good way to get your foot in the door if you're considering
Yes.
maybe being a dispatcher, but maybe not sure you're ready for all the other stuff that goes along
yes,
with it?
It's a great way. We have several of our really successful dispatchers who started as call takers.
Okay.
So it's definitely, and like I said, their call takers are worth their weight in gold.
Right.
They are the first responder, and we love our call takers so
Gotcha.
much.
So you said that you're not doing applications at the moment, but you'll be reopening those, in a couple of weeks, it sounds like.
Yeah, August 28th.
Okay.
The next one will open.
And the website is sjcounty911.net?
Yes, yeah. Or you can just go to sjcounty.net, the county's website, and apply through their website as well.
Okay.
So.
Great to have you back on KSJE,
Thank you
Nicole
so much
Brown.
for having me.
Congratulations once again.
Thank
and
you. I
you can
appreciate
come back
it.
anytime, as you know. So
Oh, thank you. I love it.
see you soon. Thank you very much. That's Nicole Brown. She is the new director of the San Juan County Communications Authority, my guest on KSJE. KSJE is supported by the Farmington Civic Center, bringing a full slate of entertainment to Farmington and San Juan County. The musical Annie, Thursday through Sunday, August 11th through the 14th, and the 18th through the 21st. The Farmington Civic Center, 200 West Arrington in downtown Farmington. Find out more online at fmtn.org/shows or at 505-599-1148.
The same machine we use to cool down during the hot weather is